Hello and welcome everyone to GridVision's presentation of the Global Racing Truck Series. Sure are happy to be here this lovely Sunday afternoon as we're going to be going racing at a short track. Some short track racing at Lucas Oil Raceway, or IRP as it is also known, in the Global Racing Truck Series. Definitely excited to see what these guys have in store for us at this track. Very unique short track as well, considering for the most part it's a middle to top groove style racetrack. But, of course, my name is Brian Britt. I have Austin Edstrom in the booth here with me today as well. And, of course, we have a new producer actually going to be helping us, Thomas Collins, going to be down behind the camera. So we definitely appreciate him stepping in and taking over for Austin Derbyshire here. Hopefully, Austin made it safely to wherever he has to go. But how are you doing tonight, Austin?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't wait for this race. I love it whenever the trucks go somewhere different than the Cup cars. For two reasons. One, in real life, I feel like the trucks are really, really good on short tracks. They put on a good show, so I'm looking forward to that. And two, for us, we do the Friday night NIS Open, so I kind of like having two separate racetracks to call over the week, and I don't think the trucks typically put on a great show on road courses. So we got lucky this week going to a little bull ring kind of short track where like you said, the line is just really weird up by the wall most of the time. It's kind of hard to make passes, so I'm really interested to see how these Global Racing Truck Series drivers can navigate this tricky little oval.
100%. Definitely a very tricky track. It's 0.69 miles. So I thought it was a half mile, but it's actually a little bit longer than that. 0.69, very unique length as well. Of course, the temperature of the racetrack at the moment is about 74 degrees track side. So very cool conditions right now. These guys should be able to, have quite a bit of grip as it looks like qualifying, of course, is starting to wrap up. Let's go through the point standings right now. And, of course, at the moment, Stephen Hayes is at the top of the board. Just took the points lead, I do believe, last week. Second place, of course, Chad McGinley down a position. Dale Brooks is in third place in the points right now. Ricky Hudgens is in fourth. Michael Hayes is fifth. Mark Royce up one spot. Of course, David Holsey's up one spot in seventh. E.J. Luna with his finish and win, I do believe, last week. He is up 3 positions. That was kind of a out-of-nowhere victory here last week there from E.J. He finished in 8th, of course. 9th place, Bobby Mantle. 10th place, Jeff Weimer, of course, down 5 spots. Big loss there for Steve Gerber, I do believe, and I think that was actually towards the end of the race he had that loss. He's at 11th. Justin LeBlanc's in 12th. That is the top 12 right now in points in the Global Racing Truck Series. Let's take a quick look at the schedule for next week. And this is going to be a very great week of action we have coming up this week. We're starting with Tuesday. And it looks like I do believe Champion Power Equipment Truck Series is going to be at Big Bad Talladega. 2.66 miles of high-octane action in the trucks. That'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, following day on Wednesday, Thunderclap action at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going to be at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So 2 days in a row of super speedway action. Can't wait for that. Of course, Thursday, we don't really have a lot of anything going on. So if your league wants to get called, definitely reach out to us. Friday, we're going to be back with some NIS competition. I know, I think Austin said that they had a doozy on Friday. So I think it's going to be the same on this Friday coming at Watkins Glen, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, back around pretty much the cycle complete on Sunday. Global Racing Truck Series is going to be at a road course as well at Watkins Glen. They usually shy away somewhat from the road courses, but glad to see them following the schedule. We're going to get to see some twists and turns there, Austin.
Yeah, Watkins Glen is probably my favorite road course on the schedule for the Cup Cars and the Truck Series. I know I said I don't really typically care about the trucks at road courses. I don't think they put on a great show, but I feel like Watkins Glen just puts on a great show no matter what car I'm seeing in it. That bus stop just causes so many troubles, and it's just such a fast style of road course. I think it fits the NASCAR vehicles pretty well.
100%. Well, looks like we do have the starting grid lineup right now. Bobby Mansell, of course, at the top of the board, qualified on the pole with a, I do believe, 21.962. Very quick lap from Mansell. Of course, second place, Stephen Hayes. Third place, Steve Gerber. Fourth place, Chad McGinley. He was the fastest, I do believe, in practice. Dale Brooks, fifth. Josh Campfort, sixth. Matthew Escalara in seventh. Of course, eighth place, EJ Luna, last week's winner. Ninth place, Jeff Weimer. And rounding out the top 10, DJ Honeycutt.
11th place, we got Don Blazier, followed by Joshua Slade in 12th. 13th, we've got, Mike Hayes. 14th, Ricky Hudges. 15th, Justin LeBlanc. And rounding up our field tonight in 16th, Stephen Knight.
Yeah, 16 cars, and that's kind of surprising. I mean, you know, we see a lot of times in this series they have quite a bit of drivers that show up, and of course we see the track information again. 74 degrees track temperature, didn't really change in qualifying. Of course, you see a little bit of the wind, and it's clear sky, so definitely fairly good evening, I'd say, for some racing here in the sim. As it looks like we're pulling off of pit road. And ready for 200 laps of action around this 0.69 mile racetrack. This is going to be an interesting one. But like I said, the lower numbers attendance here, it's not that surprising. This is an intimidating racetrack that a lot of drivers really don't know how to handle.
Yeah, it's a tough place to get around. I mean, like we mentioned, it's really top dominant, and it's just really hard to pass. So I'm going to be interested on these restarts with the leader in third place, like kind of how they cycle out.
Bobby Mansell, EOL penalty at the start here.
I believe we've got about 4 or 5 of those from Michigan from last week. There were a couple incidents, a couple big incidents, I could say, and I do believe they gave about, there's 1, 2, 5, 3, 4, 5 EOLs from Michigan. So there was definitely a lot of problems last week, but we ended up having a good show. I say problems, it wasn't bad. Like, the race was really good. It's just there was so much excitement towards the end of it that there was a couple people that had a couple mishaps, causing some accidents. I know Stephen Hayes got into the back of, I believe it was Dale Brooks, coming to the checkered flag, and that really opened the door for EJ Luna to get the victory. So I think Stephen Hayes is one of those with a EOL from last week. But going down the backstretch here, about to start the race.
I mean, you saw Steve Gerber. I mean, this is a big track position, type of race here. I mean, look at this racetrack. Gerber's up front right now as a result of all those EOL penalties. Pace car is out of the way. We're getting ready to go green flag for the first time here in Global Racing Truck Series competition. As there it is, green flag is out as they exit the Geico restart zone. And Steve Gerber up through the gears, side by side with Chad McGinley. Oh, you see Gerber gets a little bit tight up on the 28th door. This is the top group right here. The top is going to show its hand very quickly here. McGinley is going to edge out just a little bit as they're in the middle of 3 and 4. Dale Brooks also trying to wrap the middle group at home, side by side. I do believe that fourth place position, Escalera and Camper battling for fourth. Battling right now as they have pretty much settled out the top 4. Jeff Weimer's moving up a bit. Weimer side by side at the moment with Camper. Camper slowly but surely dropping through the field in that 78 push. Also working his way up. He's trying to battle his way up to 6th place. Like we're having maybe some technical difficulties with our co-commentator here, but here comes Don Blazier getting inside of the 73. It's like 5 aces, definitely looking very strong at the moment. Oh, you see Blazier getting a little bit tiny, getting a little loose. Caution flag is out. Bobby Mansell, I do believe, maybe no, Dale Brooks driving through the field like a stone here. And we're going to take a replay to see exactly what happened here to the 32. As Dale Brooks just drops to the field. Maybe some kind of, looks like he just got loose right in front of Matthew Escalara. Unfortunately, Escalara nowhere to go. Heavy contact with the wall there, I do believe, from Dale Brooks as well. You hate to see that, and you see Dale Brooks already coming down pit road, probably to get some damage repaired on that race car. Of course, Escalera probably got some front end damage out of that whole situation. Surprised he's not coming down pit road to maybe get some damage repaired as well.
Yeah, if I was Escalera, I would definitely pit right now, get that damage fixed off the, right off the bat. I know it sucks to give up P3, but I would much rather come down and fix that damage. I imagine he's got some pretty good right front. That was a pretty big front end impact there. I can't tell for sure. Unfortunately, my sim has crashed, so I'm trying to get back in. But I did see that, and I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that he wouldn't come down pit road. Here we go. Now he's coming down. Took him an extra lap, I believe. Maybe Dale Brooks just pitted a little early. Maybe the pit road wasn't actually open yet. Maybe he just wanted to get a little bit damage fixed anyway because he knew he was going to be at the back. But, it is definitely smarter to get the damage fixed right off the bat. Just make sure you uncheck those tires. Don't want to waste a set so early, but, that's definitely heartbreaking for Escalera just because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he's going to have to give up all that track position.
Yeah, just unfortunate when you have something that goes wrong right in front of you, especially right on the exit of the corner. I mean, he was just probably getting down on the gas, and not a lot you can do. And especially a track like this, it's almost like a track like this is a lot like a dirt track, to where whenever you're already kind of committed to what you're doing, it's hard to change that. Otherwise, you're going to end up spinning just along with him.
Yeah, I'm interested to see in our top 5. We've got a couple guys that we typically see a little bit further back. We've got Don Blazier and Josh Camphor doing good runs so far. I know we're only 5 laps into the green flag racing, but it's really cool seeing that Don Blazier truck up here. I know that he could have had a really good finish at Richmond a couple weeks ago, but he got taken out on the last corner of the last lap. So I'm interested to see if Don Blazier can keep his track position up here. I really want to see him get a good finish after Richmond a couple weeks ago.
No, yeah, 100%. That was definitely a tough deal there. He had could have had a second place or possibly a podium there a couple weeks ago. So definitely, I'm sure he's hoping to see if he can't possibly get some sort of redemption going here as the pace car once again dips down pit road as we have our second restart of the night on lap 8, starting lap 9 here. Chad McGinley going to lead the field. Of course, he's going to be starting from the bottom this time around. Let's see how he does. The green flag is out. Gerber guns it. I'm wondering if that's going to be that was kind of interesting. McGinley just did not go. That could possibly be a black flag for Steve Gerber.
Yeah, I don't know. Was McGinley maybe in the wrong gear, so he took off slower? I thought that McGinley had taken off a little bit, but it just looked like he was a little slower to it. I couldn't really tell, but Steve Gerber, if that was legal, that was an absolutely amazing restart. Probably the best one we've seen from a second-place car all year in the Truck Series.
Yeah, for sure. That was perfectly done if that was legal. That's the key. But we'll have to wait and see. Josh Slade right now is battling hard with Don Blazier. You see Slade getting tight up to the 23. A lot of drivers are just not having a good time when it comes to handling at the moment. Josh Camphor, though, battling with Bobby Mantle. Of course, Mantle was the pole sitter, qualified on the pole legitimately, but unfortunately had an EOL. And of course, Camphor is back to second. However, Camphor has been kind of just slowly dropping through the field here. You can just see a big discrepancy in lap times to a lot of these drivers. So I think not everybody is on the same level of setup, and I don't really think anybody's really hitting the setup. This is a tough track.
This track is so difficult. I don't know anything about setups really. I can tweak on a little bit to help my driving style or help it fit my driving style, but I definitely couldn't build them just right off the bat. And I definitely couldn't do it on a track like this where it's just so flat. And I don't know, I feel like the left front camber has to be so unbelievably turned in. And you're really just trying not to wear the right front tire out throughout this entire event. So I'm interested to see. I think we're going to see a lot of comers and goers, especially with a little bit of a smaller field. I feel like we're going to get some long runs where the tire wear really will start kicking in towards the end. So you definitely don't want to kill it at the front end.
We got a big issue here from the 21 of Ricky Hudgens. I think he just got into the wall, dropped multiple positions. He is now all the way back to 16th now. You can see his right side definitely has quite an impact to it on that Black Rifle concrete machine. So he's definitely going to be scrambling to try to see if he can't work his way back up as Camphor continuing to be under fire here. Camphor, of course, now under fire by last week's winner, EJ Luna.
Yeah, EJ doing a great job trying to hold that bottom, trying to make it work. Kind of difficult, you put yourself down there trying to get that position, and then you might just get freight train towards the top. We've been saying that a lot recently. Pocono, Michigan, it's just like you really want to come off the corner on the top side, and here it's a little different because you don't want the draft. The draft doesn't really mean anything at this tiny little track, but you still want that momentum carried off the top side, and if you try to make a pass and don't get it completed, you can definitely get freight trained, especially on a restart. But we've got a couple big movers through the field. Bobby Mantle, Stephen Hayes, they both technically started on the front row, but they both had EOLs from last week, and they're already up to, let's see, 6th and 7th place. So great job from both of those drivers getting through the field really quick.
Yeah, definitely great job of those guys. Neil Brooks, what a recovery from him, even though he's in just 12th right now. He still is somewhat competitive. He's trying to hold on. He's sitting right behind EJ Luna. Of course, so there's still a lot of times here at short tracks like this, these trucks are quite hardy, I'd say. They have pretty good endurance. They're capable of taking some impacts. So keep an eye on I think everybody by the end of this race is probably going to have some sort of damage here. Just as Valera battling very hard with DJ Honeycutt. That is for that late place position. They're still side by side. Incredibly hard to pass on the bottom at this type of racetrack. I mean, this track, from what I recall, has always been top group dominant. You see Dom Blazer battling, I think, with Joshua Slade. Slade's got the top here. That is the preferred group. And it's final four.
We did just have a pass for the lead. Chad McGinley was able to get a good run on the bottom after a couple laps. I mean, he was really just kind of hounding Steve Gerber a little bit, looking to his left rear quarter panel, and out of nowhere, it seemed like he got a good run down the backstretch and just dove it in and slide job Steve Gerber coming into turn number 3. I do believe that we're going to have a replay lined up here of the pass for the lead here in just a couple moments. Here we go. McGinley got a good run down the backstretch. And at this point, he's only really got one decision to make, and it's either to pull up behind him or just dive it. And he just chose to dive the corner, really park on the exit. He really slowed down a lot, almost allowed Steve Gerber to get back to his inside. Just had the left rear quarter panel, but Chad McGinley able to take the lead and run away with it now. He's built up about a half-second gap. Did a really, really good job getting into turn 3 there on that slide job.
No, definitely. What a move. I mean, definitely a great move there from Chad McGinley. Big and it seemed like it worked out well for him. I'll tell you what, Gerber definitely, he was at Gerber's mercy, though. Gerber got really close to that back end. We're in a short track, Austin. I don't know if I really trust anybody to get that close to my back bumper.
No, you ain't kidding about that. I'd be a little nervous pulling a slide job, especially towards the end of the race. But given it was only like lap 20, maybe he expected Steve to just kind of let off and give him the spot once he had his car in position or his truck into position. So honestly, good racing from both of those guys. Good job from Steve Gerber not getting into the back of him. It is early, and you really don't want to pick up an EOL for next week, especially on lap 20 of this race. So I think that was just a smart play by Steve Gerber, not getting into him. And hey, it's a long race. I'm just going to ride here in second for now, not kill my tires, and just see if maybe he can run them back down over the course of a long run.
He could very well have to be the case. I mean, Chad making that move could have taken quite a couple percentages out of his tires right now. I mean, he was a little bit slower than Gerber that last time by. Weimer, though, has been really setting some really good laps here the last few times. He's up to third. Been a really one of the best runs I think Jeff Weimer has had all season long. He's up to third right now, running some really good laps. I think Dirty South has got themselves some good beats here today. I know Austin, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but Dirty South has been struggling a lot the last few several races. I mean, usually these guys are capable of winning races, but haven't shown the pace it seems. But I think that they've had somewhat of a wake-up call, seeing how Lone Star and 5 Aces have been out here and at the top. All these teams that have been really outperforming them, and I think that they've kind of shown today that, hey, we still got it.
Yeah, it's just kind of turned into the 5 Aces and Lone Star show the past couple weeks, I feel like. I think that they've won every race since I've been involved with the broadcast. And, I mean, they've really just put on a good show every single week. I believe EJ Luna's 5-star, right? Or Lone Star, I mean?
He's actually, I think he's Lone Star, yes.
Yeah, so EJ Luna picking up last week whenever it looked like our normal dominant Lone Star or 5 Aces crew, they kind of fell apart towards the end of the race, and EJ Luna was still able to pick it up for the Lone Star group. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what the what the competition can come up with to kind of fight back against those two seemingly top teams at this point of the year.
big pass there for Dale Brooks. We were watching it on the screen for the last couple laps. Of course, he just got by DJ Honeycutt. Matthew Escalara also working on Josh Canford right now. Inside, and seems like that's the only way you can really pass is try to pass on the inside. Now, if you can get your nose above a driver, I think it's much easier to make the pass happen because you can't get incredibly close to the wall. And Escalara is just not able to get the run he needs. Ooh, Canford almost, I think, got into the wall. That's going to be exactly what Escalara needs. Big sin, and he's going to slide right up in front of the 78.
Yeah, I think you made a great point about the trying to get to their right rear. If you could, it would work really well. It's just, with it being such a flat track, nobody's going to give you the right rear quarter panel. Everybody's going to enter the corner so high, and they're already entering so fast too, so it's not like you can really dive into the outside. So I think it's really all about just trying to get a better run off of one of these corners, down one of the straightaways, and just slide jobbing like we saw Chad McGinley do on Steve Gerber for the lead earlier. I feel like that's going to be a pretty standard style of pass. But Bobby Mantle, he started in the back, like I mentioned. He had one of those EOLs. He's up to 5th place, and he's kind of hounding Joshua Slade here. Maybe he's just biding his time, saving his tires. Still really, really early in this run, so I do think we're going to start seeing the tire wear fall off hit a couple of these drivers. Maybe it's happening to Don Blazier. He was running 4th, and he's kind of fallen back off of the top guys just a little bit. He was about 2 seconds back from the lead not long ago. He's hovering around 4 now, so maybe we're seeing a little bit of the tire wear starting to come into some of these guys, but Chad McGinley's still just eking his lead out up front. I mean, he's got a 2-second gap to Steve Gerber.
No, he's definitely been he's been pulling away over 2 seconds, like you said. And speaking of fall off, a lot of drivers have been very inconsistent. I think everybody pretty much in this field has been somewhat inconsistent. We've seen a lot of variation in the lap time. But it's over a half a second of fall off right now, and some drivers even falling off almost a second. So that's something that we're seeing a lot of. 33 laps into this race, I expected to see fall off, but I don't know if I expected to see quite this much. I've watched some of the C opens, and the fall off, it does get up to about a 23-second lap, but that was over almost 100 laps. So I'm wondering if these guys have plateaued. We'll see if that's the case. Jeff Weimer up into the wall a little bit here. As you see, Mantle is hounding Joshua Slade right now for that 4th place position. Racing is just so exciting here at IRP.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anybody get quite as high entering the corner as Joshua Slade did there in 1 and 2. I mean, he was running absolutely on the fence, entering the corner through the center, having to cut it down just a little bit to get a straight run off. But he's doing a good job defending the position. But like we've mentioned, this is probably one of the easiest tracks to defend your position. And you can really give the guy on the inside a lot of help and make sure that they cannot pass you. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see who can make the bottom work. Like we saw Chad McGinley, he could do it. We could see him making more passes, if maybe he has some type of penalty at some point. But, a lot of the stuff with the C Open this week has been caution, 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 caution. So I'm interested to see here today. This is the longest run I've seen, it being about 30 laps. So I'm trying to, I don't have a lot of experience on the tire fall off here, I guess, because everybody just has to pit so frequently with all the cautions. So I'm interested tonight. I think we're going to get a lot of these kind of green flag runs with the field being only 16 drivers. So we're looking at Dale Brooks trying to get to the inside there of, I believe that is Josh Canford. Yeah, that is Josh right in front of him, but they're doing a good job coming through turns 1 and 2 as we've got Bobby Mantle looking like he's going to get 4th place off of Joshua Slade. Can he pull that slide job move that we saw earlier? He doesn't really drive it in quite as deep. Joshua's going to be able to hold his right rear, it looks like. Wow, he actually has a really good exit there on the bottom of the racetrack. Yeah. Good job from Bobby Mantle.
Very good rotation there through the center of the corner. He was able to get the exit he needed as well. Bobby Mantle's got a really good race truck right now in the 89, and has been slowly but surely moving his way through the field. He's got one of the best, I'd say, tire wears. I mean, last time by, his lap time was the fastest on the racetrack. I think he's been really doing an excellent job of saving, and I think that I think this is really important to try to save, and how exactly do you do that is really an interesting question. I mean, I think it's all about, a lot of times it could be the way you have your brakes set up, the way you kind of use the inputs of your pedals. And I think Mantle seems like he was doing very well. Oh, Gerber up into the wall. We're going to see possibly 3 wide as Gerber hits the outside wall, and Mantle takes a 2-for-1 special as he moves up to 2nd. Look at this.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, he was the fastest truck on the racetrack whenever he was making a pass. Now that he's got the clean air, I know it's a 3.5-second gap, but we could just see him reel in Chad McGinley here. If he was so fast on the bottom making passes, I can't wait to see him in clean air.
Yeah. lot of drivers are falling off very heavily. We see Gerber last run by 23.8. He's almost in those 24-second range. I mean, EJ Luna himself, 24.066. So we're seeing a lot of drivers having some issues. I know Escalara is still one of the drivers that is in a sub 23-second lap, 22.915 last time by. Oh, I do believe Weimer dropping to the field. Big moment there for Jeff Weimer. He's able to save it, though. And he drops all the way from the top 3 down to 7.
That's unfortunate for Weimer, but he did a good job saving it and not, nosing it into the inside wall. I feel like anytime you get loose coming off one of these corners, you're lucky to not hit the inside wall. I mean, goodness, he just a little bit of a lazy spin. We saw a lot of those at Richmond a couple weeks ago coming off at turn 2. Here we've seen one off at 2 earlier in the race with Dale Brooks. Now we've got Jeff Weimer having one, but he made an absolute hell of a save, keeping that thing straight. And we saw he's pretty quick, so I wouldn't be surprised if he could get back up there, but it probably did take a little bit of tire life out of those rear tires. But Bobby Mantle, he's picked up 0.6 of a second since he's made the pass for second.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. I mean, this guy was like 3.5 seconds back from Chad McGinley. Now he's 2.7. I mean, this guy is driving. He is running Chad McGinley down. And I think Chad's probably looking at his relative and probably thinking, like, uh-oh. I mean, this is not the track to be looking at your relative as well. So I think that definitely Mantle is showing that he's got the pace. Now, there's been certain tracks, like road courses, where Mantle has showed up and really looked exceptionally strong. Have never seen him really look strong at a track like this. So it's quite a surprise. I'm glad to see Mantle, though, finding his groove as he's going to get by the lap car of EJ Luna. So that is going to put 1 car a lap down. That's last week's winner, EJ. That just shows you, ladies and gentlemen, the differences in the tracks. We go from Michigan, where EJ Luna wins the race. We go to a track that is a short track, and EJ Luna is a lap down.
Yeah, and as you were saying with Bobby Mantle, he didn't have a good showing at Richmond a couple weeks ago, if I remember correctly. Maybe he ended up getting a half-decent finish, but I don't think that he was, too quick throughout the race. But a couple weeks before that, he was stupid fast at Mid-Ohio, ended up coming in the second to Austin McGill, who's not in the field tonight. But I'm very surprised with Bobby Mantle. I just feel like some weeks he hits it absolutely perfect to where he's one of the fastest trucks on the field. But if he's not one of the fastest, he's, 10th to 15th.
Oh, Dale
it's really
Brooks
strange.
Around. Big moment for Dale Brooks. I do believe the wall is going to keep him straight. Yellow flag is still out, though.
That looked like a Dale Jr. at Bristol kind of caution. Back in like 04, like a intentional thing. I know it wasn't intentional, but that's what it looked like.
He got loose and then the wall kind of corrected it.
Yeah, the way that he like perfectly corrected it, it's almost like he did that on purpose, but I know he did not. There's no way in hell that he did that on purpose, but it looked very similar to the Dale Jr. situation. Oh man, that's like 2 decades ago. That's showing my age a little bit, I guess, that I even remember that. But that was a hell of a save.
These drivers to get tires. I'm sure a lot of drivers are going to be very much taking advantage of that.
Yeah, 50 laps in, nobody's taking tires yet. This is a 100%. Everybody's going to come in and pit. Obviously, we see EJ Luna stay out because he's got to wait 1 more lap since he was a lap down. But we've got the leaders who've got a pretty big gap. I don't know if either of the leaders are going to lose any positions other than to each other because they've got such a big gap to 3rd place. So it's really just about these front 2 who comes out first. And we saw in that last restart, maybe you don't want to come out first because we saw Steve Gerber get that run off the top side on the restart and not get penalized. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you want to come out second and just jump it just a little bit. I'm not too sure.
While these guys are taking some pit stops, let's go ahead and take a quick moment to pay some attention to our sponsors. We'll be right back with GridVision's race at IRP.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to GridVision's presentation of the Global Racing Truck Series. We're getting ready to go back green here at IRP, and there it is, green flag back out. Bobby Mantle with a heck of a start. He slides up to the top side, up in front of Chad McGinley. Of course, he was able to win the race off of pit road. Joshua Slade's up to third right now, so big moves for him on pit road, as we see a lot of drivers trying to make some moves. Dom Blazer to the inside of Steve Gerber.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see, is Bobby Mantle just going to pull away? You know, he had such a fast truck on the on that opening run. Now that he's got the clean air, he did qualify in the pole too. He just had that EOL, so interested to see Bobby Mantle. But yeah, we've got a good tight battle up back in the back. That's Jeff Weimer just about putting. That's Justin LeBlanc, I believe it was on the outside, a little bit further back into the fence, but they were able to keep it off just barely. But yeah, Don Blazer still holding on to that top 5 position. I mentioned him earlier. Interested to see if he can hold on to that. But, side-by-side battle again. Justin LeBlanc getting put on the outside. Stephen Knight on the inside trying to make it work. Matthew Escalara makes a pass on Don Blazer going into turn number 1. Good little slide job going into the corner. He gets loose coming off. Able to save it, and that's going to hurt Don Blazer, though. He had to check up for him, and he's actually going to drop another 2 positions.
Yeah, the Lone Star guys seem like they are just desperate to try to make up any positions that they can. I mean, this is the first time I think we've seen Steve Gerber up in the 6th place position, so you can definitely tell that I feel like Lone Star kind of missed the mark this week. I think that Dirty South is a little bit more capable. Not as good on the longer runs, but I think we're seeing pretty good speed from 5 aces. But Bobby Mantle has been really clearly the class of the field so far, so he is pulling away now out to 0.8 of a second. We still see the battle going on as Blazer gets incredibly loose out the corner. He's now side by side with LeBlanc. Now this is a really good race so far for LeBlanc. I mean, LeBlanc has been having kind of a cold and hot kind of season this season. I mean, we haven't really seen him really impressing as much, but he's actually looking all right here tonight. I'm wondering if he can keep that going.
Yeah, I think we saw him do a good job at Richmond, so he might just have a natural affinity for the short tracks versus most of the guys in the field. But he is making the pass for, I believe, 8th place right there. But poor Don Blazer, he was in 5th place, and somebody got loose in front of him making a pass. And he ends up getting stuck on the bottom and losing 3 more positions that really were not his fault. So I feel bad because I was just talking about him, hoping he could keep his positions, and immediately he gets kind of screwed over by somebody else and starts going backwards. But it's still tight towards the front of our field. Chad McGinley's keeping Bobby Mantle honest as Don is trying to clear Stephen Knight. Just about makes it happen, but good job from Chad McGinley keeping Mantle honest like I was talking about earlier. But I don't know. I think the long run, Bobby Mantle looked to have the most pace out of anybody. So if we get another 20, 30 laps on these tires, I kind of think Chad's going to have to be in front of him before then to be able to keep him at bay.
No, I definitely agree. I think that Bobby is sacrificing his short run right now for the long run. I think he's like, I could see Chad's catching me, but I'm going to back my corners up. I'm going to prioritize the long run. And I think that's what he's doing. And fortunately, Don Blazer continuing to he's trying to still fight on the bottom, but he is still dropping position. Right now, he's lost his spot now to Stephen Knight. Knight's going to move up to 9th place. Haven't seen that driver very much here today, but he's definitely moved his way up into the top 10. Of course, you know, just unfortunate when you see someone get locked on the bottom like that. It seems like everybody and their mama gets by you when that's the case. But it looks like Blazer has gotten up in front of Michael Hayes now. But the gap forward lead is now half a second between Bobby Mantle and Chad McGinley. Of course, Joshua Slade has Steve Gerber not too far behind him. Of course, Matthew Escalara, he's as high as he's been all night. He's up to fifth.
Yeah, I'm really interested. You know, we just saw Don Blazer fit into a hole right in front of Michael Hayes. Kind of surprised to see Michael Hayes back in 11th place. He's been one of our fastest drivers the past few weeks. He was great at Richmond, great at Michigan, great at Pocono, but was not able to win any of those races, even though he was maybe the fastest truck in each of those. So I'm kind of surprised to see him be running 11th on pace. He qualified 13th. So this is just very shocking to see Michael Hayes this far back in the field.
Well, I think a lot of that can be explained, Austin, is because Richmond is a normal track for these drivers. They're like, you know, they're fairly familiar with it. I think a lot of people are familiar with IRP. This is not a track that we see a lot. So, and it just is unique the way you run it. It's not like Richmond. Richmond is fairly, I'd say, standard, where you run the bottom, move up out to the wall, right? You know, in the corners. This track, you don't do that. You know, you're running the wall pretty much, or the middle.
Yeah, honestly, that's a great point. I guess I didn't really think about that. I mean, just speaking off of my own personal experience, I've run a million races at Richmond on the service. I don't know if I've ran one at IRP. Maybe one over 6 years. So I definitely think that you've made a good point. It's just not really a track that we go to very often. And whenever we do, I feel like it's probably one of the lower car counts week after week. I think people are a little afraid of the little bull rings. and I can understand why. Typically, they end up being caution fest. And I believe this one has been a caution fest this week also in officials. But we're seeing a good show today. We've only had 2 cautions. Yeah, 2 cautions in 67. Not bad. Not bad from the field so far.
No, not at all. I mean, these guys usually are like that. I mean, I'm always impressed with the Global Racing Truck Series. They always put on awesome races. And I expect no less. I mean, these guys, no matter what track we go to, they're going to put on an exciting race. And usually when I get into these broadcasts, I'm you know, a little groggy. These races wake me right up. And they get me right prepared for the race on Sunday, or, you know, the NASCAR race, as Matthew Escalara dives to the inside of Steve Gerber. Battle for 4th place ongoing right now on the racetrack, as it looks like Escalara just powered it down out of turn 2. He makes the pass stick.
Yeah, making that, I mean, they were completely even, right? Like, they were door to door coming off the corner. And I don't know if Steve Gerber got a little loose, so he had to let off, or what happened exactly, but Michael Escalara making that bottom side work coming off at turn number 2, able to completely clear Steve Gerber coming off of the corner. That's a power move right there from Escalara.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you know, he is continuing to work his way through the field. I think that if anybody has a chance against Bobby Mantle's long-run pace, I think it's Escalara. I think that it's going to come down to those 2 drivers. Looking at even you know, Chad McGinley, he was catching up to Mantle there for a few laps because of his short run, but I think it's starting, the seesaw is kind of going the other way towards Mantle now. I think that Mantle is starting to show that he has the stronger race car on the longer run. Is there about a half a second now? It was about 2/10. So you're seeing Mantle starting to catch up, and also I do believe we're also seeing lap traffic come into play. Dale Brooks getting ready to go a lap down. Who would have thunk it?
Well, there's a very specific reason for that. I don't know if our producer can wind up a replay on Dale Brooks on lap 69, but going into turn number 3, he just kind of looped it, but there was nobody behind him, so caution didn't come out. We're going to watch on the replay right here. Yeah, I just saw him kind of get really slow coming off of turn 4 a couple laps ago, and I was like, what happened? So I looked back, and it turns out he spun out. Very similar to his wreck earlier. It's just, unfortunately, it bundled him up more to the right than the last one did, so he got his nose into the ball too, but you know, he's able to keep it going. Probably not too much damage from that, but Dale Brooks is not having his best night. He's been really, really fast. Probably should have won last week, but he got wrecked in the last corner. So I hate to see Dale Brooks kind of struggling tonight, because I know he's fast. He's one of the fastest guys in here. So kind of uncharacteristic for Dale Brooks to have a couple mistakes early.
No, it has definitely been uncharacteristic type of race for him, or uncharacteristic type of season. I mean, the early season, the first parts of the season have been very good for him. I mean, Dale, if you started watching us when we first started covering this series, you know, Brooks was really strong earlier, but it just seems like it has kind of gone the opposite direction. I don't know if it's because of the tracks or something that's going on in his personal life that he hasn't been able to really work on the trucks quite as much. But But either way, I'm sure he has got to be just insanely frustrated. And Stephen Hayes, the Lone Star guys must be making some good adjustments. Stephen Hayes just made his back way by Steve Gerber, side by side for that 5th place position to be found.
Yeah, and if I'm Steve Gerber, I've got to be tired of these people slide jobbing me going into the corners. I mean, it just seems like every other lap he's getting passed by somebody else, just diving to the bottom, just kind of falling through the field. He's still in 6th place, so not too bad, and he's got Jeff Weimer kind of closing in the gap behind him. But saw a couple laps ago, Matthew Escalara got to the inside of Joshua Slade, and they almost made contact going into turn 1 and 2. Escalara just kind of, or I believe it was turn 3, but Escalara just kind of fell back, let his tires get back under him, and he's starting to hound Joshua Slade again, going back into turn number 3.
Now, I know for a fact that Matthew Escalara actually has put in quite a bit of practice this week. I mean, I kind of talked to him a little bit earlier in the week. He's done a couple C opens just to kind of get prepared for this race, and so definitely he's been putting himself through the the prep. And I'll tell you, when you're doing a C open and you see someone having someone in front of you having an issue, like a lot of times you're pretty good at avoiding those crashes. So I think that Escalara is probably pretty seasoned when it comes to racing around this bull ring or this racetrack.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the tracks where you need the most practice. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it's kind of an abnormal track for most of these guys. So, I mean, if you put in 200, 300, 400 laps of practice, that's a lot more than most of the other guys in the field, just off it being a pretty new racetrack. Or not new racetrack, obviously, but I do believe the trucks just started going there again a couple years ago. So, with it being somewhat new to most of these guys, I just think whoever put in the most practice during the week is probably going to be the fastest today. I don't know about Bobby Mantle. I don't know how much he's ran this week, but I imagine with how much pace he's having right now, he must have put in a ton of practice laps.
He had to. He had to have put in a lot of time for sure. I mean, right now he's got about a 7/10 of a second gap on Chad McKinley. Of course, Escalara is still hounding Joshua Slade. It's kind of been the battle right here for the 3rd place position. And Escalara is another one that we haven't really necessarily seen up on the podium very often here this season. So I know he's got a lot of talent, and I think he's trying to show it here today. I mean, we're definitely seeing that displayed right now. Of course, I'm watching, though, pace-wise, Stephen Hayes. I'm liking what I'm seeing from that driver. Last time by, he was faster than Slade and Escalara. I think that maybe Stephen Hayes could possibly have enough pace to maybe work his way up into the top 3. I know we were just watching a battle there. I do believe Stephen Knight and Jeff Weimer are kind of battling at the moment for 7th place as well.
Yeah, Jeff Weimer on the bottom of Steve Gerber. Again, if I'm Steve Gerber, I'm getting so frustrated just seeing everybody go by on the inside. It's so difficult to pass on the inside, but I almost think he's making it maybe a little bit too easy on these guys. Maybe he's struggling a little bit. We saw him get a little loose earlier, so maybe he's just kind of worn out his tires at the beginning of this run. But, back up towards the front, Chad McGinley's actually keeping Mantle pretty honest. I'm kind of surprised. He's just hovering around that 7/10 of a second. They're just kind of trading who's faster each lap. But 7/10 of a gap is not very big, and if Bobby, maybe blows his tires just a little bit earlier this run, Chad could be right back in the race for the lead, and you just really know, or you never know how long these green flag runs are going to go, so you never know how hard you need to save.
And one thing you're just making me think of is that Mid-Ohio race where we saw how good Mantle was. That first run, we saw how he was able to really chase down Austin McGill. He just really, showed a lot of patience, I'd say, with saving the tires. The second run, though, whenever he was in the lead, it was completely different. He was trying to almost, stay out in front of Austin McGill, and he wasn't saving the tire as good. Could the mental game have changed here for Mantle like that race did?
I definitely think it could have, but you got to think with being an oval, you've only really got 2 braking zones. So whenever he kind of started struggling at Mid-Ohio, I remember talking to him in the interview. He was saying once he got past Austin, it's almost like he lost his braking zones. He lost his marker that he was using to brake, right? So he had to kind of come up with them by himself on the fly, with him being out front, with nobody to kind of gauge them off of. So I just think with it being on an oval, it's a little different, right? You've only got 2 to remember. It's not as difficult to remember where your braking zones are. It's just about saving the tires and making sure you're still, you keep the car forward or going forward towards the end of the runs. But we've got a good battle here. DJ Honeycutt on the outside. I believe that's Camphor on the inside. Man, they're door to door, super tight coming off the corner. That's for 11th place, I believe. It looks like Camphor's going to get the position.
Right now, I mean, man, Camphor, I tell you, he is. You can kind of understand why Camphor is fighting so hard. just considering, I mean, he started closer to the front of the field, and ever since the green flag, the first green flag flew, he has done nothing but drop like a rock through this field. So you could tell that he just does not want to give up any positions here, and definitely need to be making some adjustments on that race car. I think that's for sure, but very tough track to make adjustments for, I'd say.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this, like we've been mentioning, this track is just so different. It's hard to understand exactly what you need to do. As Matthew Escalara looks to the inside of Joshua Slade, they almost make contact going into 1 and 2. They're actually going to come off the corner nice and straight, though. But every time Escalara looks to his inside to try to get that third position away, he just can't get the power down coming off of the corner. He looks like he's a little faster than Joshua Slade, and if he got in front, he would maybe be able to pull away, but he just hasn't been able to get it done. Slade's running a very good defensive line, not giving Escalara much to work with, but you got to feel for Matthew here. After a while, you might want to use the bumper to get by him.
Yeah, I think he's thinking about it. You could definitely see, I mean, if I could read Matthew Escalara's mind right now, I guarantee he's saying, I'm just going to move him out of the way. Because, I mean, this is Slade has been, Joshua Slade, very talented driver. But I'll tell you, in this race particularly, I'd say he has been somewhat of a Ryan Newman in a lot of ways, because we've already seen this earlier in the race where some guys were trying to get around him, and they could not do it. I think Mansell was one that was trying to get by him and was being held up by the 12. But finally was able to make that pass stick. So I think that Escalara's just going to have to really use patience here and wait for Slade to slip up. We saw Slade earlier hit the wall. I think you're going to have to wait for something like that. But I don't know. I mean, the 43 seems like he's got a fast race car. Maybe if Joshua Slade falls off to enough of a point to where he's able to rotate a little bit better, maybe that. But you can see Slade's almost seems like he's driving in his mirror.
Yeah, I definitely think he is a little bit, but I mean, you're holding on to that podium position. You don't want to give anything up, and I think he knows too. If Escalara gets by me, he's going to go flying, and if we don't get another caution, it's going to be hard to get back up to him.
There goes Weimer, another save from Weimer.
My goodness, he hates turn 4, but he loves that front straightaway, saving him every single time. I mean, my goodness, poor Jeff Weimer. I was screaming and hollering about turn number 7 at the Indy Road Course on Friday night. I think it might be turn number 4 for Jeff Weimer tonight. Pretty similar situation, but he's doing a good job not nosing it into the inside wall. Like I said, it's difficult to not do that if you get that loose, but we're on board right here, or we're looking at Michael Hayes. I believe he's running about 10th place. Going back to DJ Honeycutt, he gets crazy loose coming off the corner. What a good save again. My goodness, he went left, right, left again, able to keep it straight. My goodness, these guys are having a ton of trouble on the long run coming out of turn number 4.
Yeah, speaking of which, we're 45 laps into this run as we got a big battle for third. Escalara he's getting physical now. He is, I think he's getting really tired of Slade, and I can't blame him. I mean, because Joshua Slade is pretty much parking that race car right in the middle of the track to where Escalara cannot pass.
And it just gets harder and harder to pass as the long run goes. I mean, as the tires wear,
it's getting fed up. We're having contact here, door banging. You can see Escalara's.
Man, they're all over each other for the third position. Escalara is fed up. He's done waiting behind Joshua Slade. He doesn't quite dive it in deep enough into turn 3, I don't think, but he might just drive Joshua Slade up the racetrack. They're still stuck together. Escalara's still not clear coming off of the corner. My goodness. Oh, my. Escalara's got to be so frustrated. They're north again into turn 1, it looks like. They made contact for like 3 or 4 corners in a row. Escalara still cannot get clear.
It turned into the outside wall. Caution flag is out. Joshua Slade accidentally, I'm assuming, turns, because I think Escalara really somewhat turned himself there in a lot of ways, but I think that you could see the frustration between the 43 and the 12 very much palpable. As you can even see, the 43 drives up to Slade to show his displeasure. Man, yeah, this is not over. He's going to almost intent wrecks him there. Did have some contact there. Wow. As we are now on lap 99, and that was some crazy racing there. That's some short track racing if I ever seen it.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking back, trying to, Slade really didn't give him the room coming off the corner, if I'm being honest. He didn't track out to the wall like he normally would, or like you would expect, and, oh, man, I don't know. That's pretty tough. If I'm Matthew Escalara, I'd be pretty freaking frustrated too. He got held up for 30 laps, and, there's a lot of contact going through the corners there with both of them for a couple corners in a row, a couple laps in a row. But at the end of it, I don't know. I feel like Slade could have given him a little bit more room, and they could have been side by side down the backstretch again. But instead, he just doesn't really give him the room coming off the corner that time. I don't know. That's a little tough. I don't know if there's anything intentional with that. I wouldn't really say that, but I would probably put that more on Slade just because he didn't come off the corner.
Well, we could definitely take maybe another look back at some of that if we'd like. That'd be really cool. I think we've got some time while these guys are in the midst of their pit stops. We can maybe take a look back at the replay. As we have a replay here, I do believe we see Escalar dives it in. Might not have the whole entire replay here, but you can definitely see these guys were door banging right here. I mean, man, this is short track racing if I have ever seen it. I mean, Escalar was just fed up. I could just imagine sitting in his chair, probably him sitting here cursing like, hey, go.
Yeah, so that watching it back, I'm looking at Joshua Slade's cockpit too in a view I've got, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that was 100% not intentional. I do think he ran him too narrow off the corner, right? Like I would probably put more fault on Slade just because I feel like he didn't use all the racetrack. But if you actually do look in his cockpit coming off of the corner, he's turning right whenever he is making the contact because he got so loose because he was fighting so hard. So I definitely don't think that was any type of intent from Slade at all. But that's tough for Escalar as he's just left the race.
You know what's so bad about this though is we're only on lap 102. Like these guys could have waited till later in the race to do that thing. I mean, I just think it was a kind of it was good hard racing. I very much enjoyed watching it myself, but I think that it's going to have lasting impacts on the rest of this race as well. As Escalara has actually parked the race car, he's out of the car now, and Slade is now all the way back into 12th place. So this has definitely changed the pretty much the complexion of what this is going to look like. I mean, we got one driver's out of the race now, and I think that Escalara had a top 3 car easy.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, I mean, Joshua Slade too. They both had possible top 3 cars. I mean, they were battling for the 3rd position, but that's just one of those things where I feel like you just got to be smarter. Like if you know the guy behind you's faster and y'all been door banging a couple times in the corner, I mean, I hate to say let him go, but you probably just need to let him go and focus on your own race, drive the racetrack instead of burning up your stuff any more than you already did. But coming to the restart here with about 97 laps to go.
I think we still got some interesting things that could possibly play out as the short track tippers have been flaring. Green flag is back out here as we're on lap 104. Bobby Manson, another first restart. Stephen Hayes up to the top 3, highest he has been. And that 13 is starting to heat up. He gets right up to the back end of the 28.
Yeah, and I was talking earlier about Michael Hayes running in 11th. He's actually through to 5th. It looks like he's got the preferred groove over Don Blazier right here. So, well, he gets a little bit slow out of the corner, it seems. I can't quite tell. He's still going to hold his right rear quarter panel coming off the corner, but I think Michael Hayes is going to eventually get that spot. Just being on the top side, it's just a little bit more overpowered, especially on these restarts. So I really think Michael Hayes...
Stephen Knight around in front of the field. Caution flag is out. The 79 spins from the top 5. Wow.
It's that cold tire issue, I guess. I mean, he was racing nobody, and he just kind of lost it off of turn number 2. Maybe didn't have the tires completely heated up from the restart because that just ended up being a really lazy spin. Doesn't look like he has any contact with anything, though. But still unfortunate from the P4 to now the back of the pack. I mean, you hate to see that.
Yeah, 100%. I think he just, like you said, I think his tires just were not heated up. And this is a track that's very big on throttle control. And I think that maybe he thought with all the new tires, a lot of times you get new tires, you kind of have that false sense of confidence as well. And I think that that's kind of what happened here. I think the 79 kind of got a little too hot on those tires, or on those cold tires. They were not heated up properly, and he got onto the gas a little too happy there. He got a little too happy on the throttle. But I think now's the perfect time since we got just another quick caution. Let's take a break, step away, pay some attention to our sponsors. We'll be right back with some more racing here in the Global Racing Truck Series.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to GridVision's presentation of the Global Racing Truck Series as Bobby Mantle leads us to green once again, and the green flag is back out. Good start from Mantle. I think that, I'll tell you, that first place position is where you're going to want to be. As you see, Stephen Hayes challenging for second up the inside of Chad McGinley. Watch out for the 13. Lone Star has not been really a factor in this race, but they are now a factor. I'd say Stephen Hayes, whatever they've been doing to that race car, he's definitely got it working right in that Whataburger scheme. So maybe he ate some Whataburger. he's awake now.
He typically runs really good whenever I eat Whataburger the night before. I did not do it this time, so I'd be very surprised if Stephen Hayes wins. He didn't have my he doesn't have my Whataburger curse going today, unfortunately. But the Lone Star guys all of a sudden find themselves in third and fourth. So I'm kind of surprised they've kind of fallen or stayed at the back towards the beginning of this race, just slowly worked their way up. Typically they're one of the guys dominating, so it's interesting to see that they're not, quite as quick, but maybe they're just saving their stuff for the end. Maybe they're not wanting to show their hand, just making sure they get to the end without any damage. I mean, we saw two people take each other out for third place earlier, so maybe they've just kind of been running a smarter race today, just trying not to get taken out, not get taken advantage of. But they've found themselves third and fourth, like I mentioned earlier. EJ Luna back to 12th right now, but the two Hayes brothers are making a really good show of this coming through the field as Bobby Mantle's trying to stretch his lead out over Chad McGinley.
Yeah, look at that. Jeff Weimer, whoa, getting incredibly loose there on the entrance of the corner. He's got DJ Honeycutt and Camper side by side behind him. Big battle right now for the 7th place position. Camper seems like he has got some pretty good short run right now. I think he's starting to figure some things out. Unfortunately, I don't know if he's going to be able to make this pass actually stick on Weimer. Weimer's got the preferred groove, and I think he's going to be able to get the run on exit. These guys battling really hard. Could we see some more short track contact? Definitely a possibility right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, there it is! It's that you called it out. You called it out. Jeff Weimer comes off the wall, gets into Camper.
Nowhere to go for the drivers in. Oh, and Dale Brooks. Just bad goes to worse. My word.
Dale Brooks had just gotten his lap back too.
Man, I tell you, he's just about to call it quits. I just like I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna reset my alarm, restart the day. Can I reset, please?
Oh. Jeff Weimer looks like he just got loose coming off of turn number 4, came down and collect Camper. And no maliciousness there. It's just Weimer getting loose on the outside. Unfortunate. But man, it really caused a big stack up.
Exactly what happened here on the racetrack. You see Camper and Weimer side by side. Gonna take a little bit of a slow-mo right here. I love it when we go slow-mo here in the GridVision. Of course, we're watching Weimer. I think Weimer is going to be the one that gets loose off of the corner here. You can see he's right up next to the wall. Yeah, you see right there drifting sideways down into the right rear of the 78, spins him right around, and no one has anywhere to go. I mean, you see Justin LeBlanc, nowhere to go.
EJ Luna right into the back of him. Nowhere for him to go. And then Dale Brooks, I mean, he's already in the wall up there just trying to avoid it. Trying to slow down some speed, I guess, using the wall. But after that second contact for Camphor, it turned him back up in front of Dale Brooks. Very unfortunate for all those guys towards the back of the field. It's kind of everybody from 10th on back got collected in that one.
And we were talking about this one being a clean race. We were like, whoa, yeah, this is just clean compared to the C Open. But I think we have a lot of these guys, I think, are starting to get a little bit frustrated, a little bit heated. And I think some emotions are starting to run high. Wouldn't you say, Austin?
I'd say so for sure. Yeah, there's just so much going on with this race. I mean, so many people are getting into it. I don't know. I think as we get closer to the finish, we're just going to have more and more issues like that, right? There's going to be less room given. People are going to, start taking more than given. And, I mean, we already saw it earlier. As soon as we hit halfway, Joshua Slade would not give any room to Matthew Escalara and vice versa. I mean, just door banging lap after lap. I think we're going to see a lot of that towards the finish. And, that first run, I thought Bobby Mantle was just the class of the field, but off that second run, Chad McGinley kept him really, really honest over the long run. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 2 or 3 guys up here towards the front, I think our current top 3 could all end up being under a blanket at the end of this race, whether it's a short run or a long run. And at that point, I mean, we've seen people don't care, or people don't mind using their doors to rough somebody up. So we'll see towards the end of it who gets into who.
Well, I mean, it's so difficult to get these wins in this series. I mean, very, very talented group of drivers, and, very difficult. I mean, Bobby Mantle chasing his first win. I know McGinley's won early in the season, itching to get back to victory lane. Of course, Stephen Hayes, he's been in victory lane quite a bit. I know Michael Hayes, he's felt like a lot of them have been stolen away as the green flag is back out. Mantle with not as good of a start as he usually has been getting. He does still slide up in front of McGinley. You see Hayes, Stephen Hayes, to be exact, all over the 28's back bumper. Oh, and I think he's almost bump drafted him on the backstretch here.
Yeah, Stephen Hayes throws it in deep onto the outside, trying to get to the right rear of Chad McGinley coming off the corner. Not quite going to get there. Chad shuts the door. No harm, no foul. And Steve Gerber back from the back. I mean, he was falling through the field like a rock, and all of a sudden he's found himself in 4th place. He just made a pass on the bottom on a restart on Michael Hayes.
Yeah, he might be definitely figured something out there in that 8 machine. Definitely seems like he's got pretty good short run speed as he runs up to the back of the 13 of Stephen Hayes. So battle of the Steves right now. Of course, Don Blazer trying to get to the inside of Jeff Weimer as well. Weimer's shown really good pace, but unfortunately has had his fair share of spinning sideways. Of course, I think he was the one that didn't really get as much damage out of that whole ordeal with him and Camphor. That's Bobby Mantle now 0.7 of a second of a lead right now over Chad McGinley.
Oh, Jeff Weimer got loose coming out of the corner again.
Oh, no.
And he ends up spinning over the nose of Don Blazer. Obviously, I don't think there's any fault on Don Blazer on that. It's just Jeff got crazy loose on right in front of him, and I don't think Don had anywhere to go. I want to say he tried to get out of it, but we're just seeing that turn 4 trouble spot starting to come into play here.
For one driver in particular.
Yeah.
Jeff Weimer. I'm telling you, they're gonna have to put his picture up next to turn 4. Like, watch this guy. Don't let him come through here because he's gonna spin out.
That sucks for Jeff too, because he's been fast. He's just starting to have a couple issues in turn 4, and once you make 1 or 2 issues, you kind of get in your own head, and you start making more problems that maybe you wouldn't have earlier in the race. Maybe he just needs to back it down about 10%. Just try to protect, as we see a split strategy decision. We see a split strategy decision. Some people in the top 5 pitting. I believe that was Steve Gerber and Michael Hayes both coming down pit road.
Yeah, I like this. I mean, I like this decision. I mean, might as well, try to do something different. Maybe it'll be, it could work with the fresher tires, give you a little bit more resources to work with, maneuverability. I mean, we have seen tire fall off be somewhat big here at this racetrack. So I like the call. I like the call. Of course, they're not going to be giving up too much track position as well, as I think we've seen. Yeah, just a couple spots there on the racetrack being given up. Of course, Bobby Mantle staying out. Looks like Steve Gerber's going to come out in 6th place. So that's really not that bad. I mean, I think that could be big. We'll just have to watch. We'll see. This is going to really show how much tires mean.
Yeah, they kind of give some good track position to a couple guys who had lost a little bit or maybe been involved in a couple accidents. We see Don Blazer up to 4th place, Stephen Knight into 5th, and I believe that is Josh Camphor. Oh, well, Josh is actually 2 laps down from having fixed damage, so he's at the back of this pack, but he'll actually have to go further back. But yeah, our top 5, only 5 people stayed out. The other half pitted, so there wasn't too many green flag laps, right? Because we just had so many cautions built into that, but I definitely could see it as it gets down closer to the finish of this race, those people that came and took on tires, if we don't get another caution, they're gonna be really, really quick towards the end of this.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, and we did see a little bit of the fall off, kind of rearing its ugly head there. Even though we did have a couple, definitely a few cautions there in quick succession. I think it's gonna still have definitely some noticeable effects. I think that having a Gerber on newer tires. Michael Hayes. I mean, Michael Hayes was way out of the top 10 earlier in the race. He was highest running 4th. We'll have to see what he's able to do here, as it looks like everybody's getting down Camphor. Camphor's going to be getting an EOL penalty here. But Bobby Mantle so far out in front pretty much ever since he's taken the lead. He has pretty much led this entire race except for the laps that Chad led early. But what a day for the 89. Hopefully nothing steals that away. I usually don't like to root for people. Well, actually, I'm lying. I really am a lot of times biased. But I want Bobby to win. I'm cheering him on.
Yeah, I just like seeing different guys up front, and I feel like this truck or this league has a great job of there's a lot of maybe not inconsistency, but the guys that we see up front can be inconsistent at times, right? We see Austin McGill a lot whenever he's in here, he's up front. Stephen Hayes ends up finding his way to the front a lot, but I mean, today, Chad McGinley and Bobby Mantle, they're typically fringe top 5 drivers, but they've been the 2 fastest the entire race. So I just like seeing a different face up front, and I think either of the front 2, or even 4th place of Don Blazer, I'd love to see any of those guys win the race tonight.
Yeah, they definitely look very fast there at the top. Motorsports, of course, as those being the 2 drivers that believe that are at the front right now. They're at the top, that's for sure. Definitely looks like they got them a really good race car underneath them here today, as they're going to be taking the trip. The pace car's going to be taking a trip down pit road as we get the green flag once again here at IRP. A much better launch for Chad McGinley. He might actually take the lead here because of that start. Big launch there. He's got the high side coming out of turn 2. Can he take advantage of it? And I think he's not going to be able to. Mantle back up to the lead. That was a big challenge there for McGinley. I think he had a really big opportunity there. As you see, Stephen Hayes almost door bangs with the 28.
Yeah, I just think that 2nd place spot actually has a decent bit of, I don't know, the 2nd place spot on a restart is actually not too bad here. The straightaway is not long enough to really clear somebody if they get a good enough start on the outside. And, if they can just hold on to your right rear quarter panel through the entirety of turn 1 and 2, I mean, they could really fight for a good run down the backstretch. But I really think what we need to be focusing on is our cars on tires, right? We've got Steve Gerber pitted. He's up to 5th place, looking to the inside of Don Blazer. If we've got some people hitting the wall back in the middle of 1 and 2, but Steve Gerber on those new tires, this could be the strategy play that wins somebody else the race that we did not expect. Steve Gerber and Michael Hayes, both 5th and 6th place on the new rubber. We'll just see if they can pick through the field. Don Blazer just about, I believe he actually does get the wall coming out of turn 4. Doesn't actually give Steve Gerber a chance, but I don't know. These new tires are going to be coming through here pretty quick.
Yeah, and I know that Steve Gerber's got to be somewhat frustrating, considering that's his teammate that's right in front of him. It's like, come on, man. Like, I got new tires. Could you just pull over just a little bit? Let me go here. I'm on new tires. I'd like to get through to have a chance to fight against those other guys. But, that's just not how it works. A lot of these drivers, they still they're going to battle each other. Even though they're on the same team, a lot of times they battle each other just as hard as they would another teammate.
Yeah, we see, exiting turn 2, it looked like Steve Gerber was going to get a really good run, but I just think he got to the gas a little bit early and actually had to get off coming out of the corner, so he couldn't actually make the pass happen. But, he's really just got to stay in front of the other new tire truck of Michael Hayes. As this run winds down, I imagine the people on the newer tires will continue to have a better advantage throughout the entirety of the run. So it's really just about being the first car on the new tires. Steve Gerber does get past Don Blazer going into turn number 3.
Yeah, Blazer definitely racing him really clean there. Good on Steve Gerber to be able to make that pass. Of course, you see Michael Hayes now trying to do the same, and it looks like he's going to be able to do so. He's up to now 5th. So watch out for Steve Gerber. He is definitely coming through the field right now. Let's see if he's able to make it up to Stephen Hayes and possibly contend for a top 3 as we're on lap 136 out of 200. And the racing has been nothing short of exciting here at IRP and the Global Racing Truck Series. We definitely appreciate everybody out there tuning in. Of course, if you like what you've been watching so far, make sure you give us a like, maybe subscribe to us on our YouTube. Of course, we have, I do believe, also our Facebook and Twitter are also in the description below of the video, so we definitely would like to see you follow us there. We definitely, a lot of times we have even live chats or live tweets during the show. As you see, a lot of pressure for Steve Gerber. He's clearly faster than the rest of the field right now.
Yeah, he's looking to the inside of Stephen Hayes going into turn number 3 for the 3rd position. But the problem that he's kind of facing right now is, oh man, they just about made contact off of turn number 4. But the problem that he's facing is you're having to pick your way through the field, but you also have to not kill your tires in the same manner. You know, he could get past all of them, get to the lead, but then actually still start slowing down worse than the people that have older tires just from having to kill them so hard from going through the pack. So he's really just got to take his time and know that, hey, for this strategy to work out, this thing has to run all 60 laps green, and you have to just time it right to where you're the fastest towards the end of the run. I know he's got a good Team Watson set up under him. I know they're pretty quick towards the end of the run, and he's got 2 really, really quick trucks in front of him, but you just have to pace yourself and know that you got to race the track and not necessarily the people that are in front of you.
Yeah, that's a good thing. The way I always usually characterize that or describe that is chasing a carrot on a stick. You do not want to fall into that temptation, of chasing that carrot on a stick. You see, oh, I'm catching these guys. I really can get up there and take the lead, but maybe you should just kind of dial it back a little bit. Like, yes, you're faster than them, but maintain that speed. Don't drive off the tires. Don't rub what rubber you have on that eraser left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's very similar to what we saw like Joshua Slade do at New Hampshire. He took tires after a short 20-lap stint to do a strategy call, and he battled all those way up to 2nd, but towards the end of the run, he had killed his stuff so bad trying to get through the field that he ended up actually being slower than some of the guys with older tires. And it's an easy mistake to make because you just feel like Superman coming through the pack on the new rubber, but you just got to make sure that you don't kill them yourself, because if you do, you're just going to be so far off the pace. It's just not getting into that carrot on the stick mentality like you mentioned.
What I'm kind of surprised at is Stephen Hayes. He has been dropping through the field like a rock, as well as Don Blazier. I mean, these guys are on the older tires, but they're actually much slower than the guys that are on the same level of tires as they are, as Mantle and Chad McGinley. I mean, they're 2/10 slower, 3/10 slower. This is kind of surprising to me. I don't know why this is. I thought Hayes was trending in the right direction.
I think part of it could just be because they were stuck in the dirty air. They were the first cars to get past, so they're getting more of the dirty air than obviously Bobby Mantle in the lead and Chad McGinley in 2nd. There's about a 2nd gap between those two, so Chad's not really got any dirty air that he's worrying about either. So I just think it's the factor of that is just that Stephen Hayes has now got all the dirty air to worry with. He's gotten passed by so many cars on new tires that it's just kind of adding to the struggle that he's in. He's definitely going to need a caution to kind of get back on cycle.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're definitely right. Of course, track position is going to be key. And I think most everybody, even the guys that just took tires, will probably end up coming down if we had a caution in the next 10 or so laps. So that's going to kind of even the playing field. And I think that track position he's already lost is gone, unless he drives his way back forward. But of course, he is capable of doing so. That 13 is always capable of driving his way through the field. Of course, Steve Gerber now all the way up to the rear end of Chad McGinley. But I have a feeling that Steve Gerber has plateaued when it comes to his lap times right now, or pretty much is on somewhat of a more even playing field with McGinley and Mantle now. Now, I'm wondering what Michael Hayes, maybe he can do something here. But you see Gerber is kind of being held up by the 28. But I think that, like I said, that the fact that he was trying to drive through the field and get past some guys, I think that did have a somewhat of a detrimental effect on his tires.
Yeah, definitely could have. He did a good job getting through pretty quick, pretty clean. But, anytime you go to the bottom of the racetrack and you're having to put so much wheel into it while also getting the throttle down as soon as possible so you can make a pass, it's just going to wear out the right front. It's going to wear out the right rear. It's just going to get really more difficult to pass as the run goes on. I mean, if he had like another 10 lap fresher tires, right? If we didn't have all those cautions and it was more of a I don't know, strategy play. I mean, it was obviously a strategy play, but there just wasn't much advantage to it. But he has, I think, he fell back all the way to about 9th place at one point in this run, or at this race, and because of his little tire strategy and good restarts, he's worked his way back up to 3rd place. So I feel like that's still got to be looked at as a net positive for him, as we've got Dale Brooks coming off on Stephen Hayes here out of turn number 2. They're fighting for the 8th position. There was a little bit of history between these two last week. Stephen Hayes got into the back of Dale Brooks whenever it looked like Dale Brooks was going to win the Michigan race on a late race green-white checkered. So I thought maybe Dale Brooks was going to, unwind the wheel a little bit and get into his right or left rear, but he keeps it clean, and they're still going straight here for 7th.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. They did have a little bit of controversy there at the end of that Michigan race. Oh, there goes Dale into the back end of the 13, just a hair. This battle is starting to heat up. As Dale Brooks, I do believe, is on fresher tires. Dale Brooks has pitted 6 times in this race. Now, I don't believe that every time he has taken tires, I think for the most part, it has been him taking repairs, and he has had to do a substantial amount of them as he does make the pass, and he's going to move up to that 8th place position. So I do believe these guys somewhat do have a little bit of a rivalry, but fortunately, I do believe for Hayes that Dale Brooks did not take out his anger on him. But definitely 2 orange trucks that don't seem to like each other very much.
Yeah, to what you mentioned earlier, though, I am really surprised. Like you said, Stephen Hayes is falling back to 9th place, 6 seconds off the lead, and the leader and the 2nd place car are both on the same tires as him. So I'm just shocked that he's fallen off so heavily. But Chad McGinley's actually starting to kind of reel in Bobby Mantle a little bit more over the long run. And
his lap times for Hayes are all well off the pace as well. 23.254. I mean, that's 0.3 off of what Mantle and McGinley are hitting right now. And like you said, they're on the same tires. I mean, that's a lot of difference there between lap times.
Steve Gerver is starting to fall back just a little bit off of the front too, so maybe he has killed those tires like you mentioned earlier. I just can't quite tell. But I mean, our leaders, 2nd place, I do think he had a little bit of a mishap that lap, but 2nd place has been slowly reeling in Bobby Mantle. Our producer was talking about maybe the tire cycle or the heat cycles over the cautions, maybe screwed with some of the tires a little bit with some of the guys that are falling back through the pack a little bit more, like Stephen Hayes. So I don't know. There's just a bunch of different kind of variables that can lead into somebody being a little bit slower than the front two. And, I don't think Stephen Hayes was maybe quite as fast as the front two anyway, but I definitely didn't expect him to fall all the way back to 9th place on this restart.
Well, I mean, I think he legitimately earned his way up to 3rd. I mean, I think that he seemed like he was fast, but definitely seems like something has gone wrong. Maybe, I don't know if he burned his stuff up a little bit more than the rest of those guys, and maybe he was overcompensating to get up there to 3rd by driving it so hard, and that's why he's starting to pay the price now. But of course, I mean, a lot of drivers out there are struggling more than others. I mean, we see Don Blazer 23.4, Josh Slade 23.5. A lot of drivers are really struggling. And this is a track that I think, we talked about it before, how difficult this track is. How difficult it is to save tire, I think, is the main thing here. I mean, not everybody's going to be as good at saving tires. I think a lot of times your pedals can make a big difference. I know you were helping out some drivers earlier in the week with messing with their pedals, their brakes settings. A lot of times that can have a big effect. I mean, at a track like this where the brake is being used a lot, I think that also could have something to do with it. You're not able to save the tire as much, and maybe that might not all have to do with the actual setup you have on the race car, but the rig you're actually driving in.
That's a great call. Like you said earlier in the week, I was really trying to walk people through like some certain brake adjustments, whether that be out of sim or in sim adjustments. Crazy things about the iRacing simulator is you have to have all of your settings absolutely perfect. That goes from your brake settings, your gas settings, your FOV. I mean, you need to have your FOV perfect. So, if you're running a certain kind of pedal that maybe a setting runs better turned off and you've got it turned on and you just don't know, right? You got to do a good bit of research to be able to have them set up perfect, and you can really pick up a lot of time from just figuring out the perfect kind of brake package. In a sense, it's a little bit different than the real life brake package, but you just have to make sure your settings are right. And obviously our 2 leaders have theirs figured out, and to Bobby Mantle's credit, he was so good at the road course of Mid-Ohio that I definitely think that he you know, it could just be a brake pedal adjustment where he's got it set up better than some of the guys in the field. But, you know, Chad McGinley still hovering around that 8/10 to a second gap to the leader. They're just kind of switching laps back and forth on who's fastest. But yeah, I mean, for a lot of these guys, they might not just have their brake pedal set up completely perfect for a track like this where you need to use a ton of brake.
No, I think that's what it is for sure. You know, you're going to want to really have it perfect. Dale Brooks has moved his way up to 7th now. He got by DJ Honeycutt. Honeycutt's definitely been struggling. This is kind of a surprise for the 15. You might not have experience with the 15 of DJ Honeycutt, but I have seen him. He's a previous champion in this series and has always been very good on long runs. Does not appear that is the case in this race. It seems like something has been definitely going wrong. You know, in all the races we've really seen DJ Honeycutt in, he hasn't really been as impressive as I once have seen him. I mean, he used to be able to go toe-to-toe with the likes of, you know, Dale Brooks and Michael Hayes and Stephen Hayes. So this is kind of interesting. Also, the shoes on the other foot, I do find this interesting that earlier in this race, Michael Hayes was back in 11th place or so. Now he's up in 4th, and Stephen Hayes is back in 9th. So this is kind of like the roles have reversed here as they're on lap 166, closing in on the conclusion of tonight's race here at IRP. I'll tell you what, this has definitely been an interesting one, to say the least. I think we've seen a whole lot of it's been upside down in a lot of ways, I'd say. Usually we see the Hayes brothers up towards the front, but now it looks like Stephen Knight is actually challenging for 4th.
He's actually going to take it away coming off of turn number 4. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the Hayes brothers, this is not the normal race that we see from them. We typically see them both in the top 5, or at least with top 5 speed, but tonight we just haven't seen the same thing from the Lone Star group. None of the Lone Star trucks are running really good.
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you, the at the top guys are running fantastically. This is probably the best at the top Motorsports has ran all season, and you know, they're really earning their names right now at the top. You know, they're at the top of the board. I mean, you got Bobby Mansell in 1st, Chad McGinley in 2nd, Stephen Knight's up to 4th. I mean, if these guys keep going, and if Knight can somehow find his way up to 3rd, I mean, what kind of day that would be for those drivers, a 1, 2, 3. I mean, that would be, those guys would be probably boasting and holding that over everybody's heads.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, for them to have the name at the top, you know, they haven't been in victory lane since I've been here, but, you know, if they get a 1-2 out of nowhere, that's a big statement victory, a big statement finish for both of those guys if they can just finish this out. And they've got a big gap, right? Like, Bobby's got a now 1.6 second gap to 2nd, but 2nd place still got a 1.7 second gap to 3rd. So Bobby Mantle and Chad McGinley, they must have absolutely hit on the setup this week, put in a ton of time, ton of practice, because they're just doing so good.
Yeah, they are. But I am seeing Chad's actually starting to struggle a lot more. He was keeping up with Mantle for quite a while. Now he's about 1.5 seconds back, so that is a big difference. He was like a half a second, so he has lost quite a bit of time. So Chad, I think, is starting to struggle a little bit here. Could maybe Steve Gerber come into play? Stephen Knight, though, right now is the fastest car on the racetrack. I'd watch out for this 79. I think he's possibly got a top 3 in his future. I mean, if he continues to run 3/10 faster than Steve Gerber, he's going to catch that 8 machine.
Yeah, that's actually really impressive from Stephen Knight. Everybody should have the fuel to finish,
really good question. It's actually a really good question. I think they should. I think the fuel window, ladies and gentlemen, is about 100 laps, a little over 100 laps. So I think that everyone should be able to make it on gas, but that is definitely something I didn't even think about. I was too more concerned with the lap times here, but that is definitely a very good question. As Stephen Knight, though, still steadily the fastest race car on the track. Of course, he's got about 4.5 seconds there up to Mantle to get there, though, if he wants to possibly win this race. I think with the speed he's showing, though, I think it's possible that he could get up there. Yeah, he could get up there.
He's flying, man. Holy cow. But we got a crazy battle for 5th place here. Michael Hayes continues to struggle. And you know what? I got to sing somebody's praises because earlier in this race, he made 3 big-time mistakes, spinning out, causing cautions. But Dale Brooks is on the back bumper for 5th and 6th right here whenever it looked like, I mean, you said he pitted 6 times. That's a lot of times to pit to fix damage.
That's Dale Brooks, that did that.
He's running 7th place right now behind these two. I mean, that's an incredible recovery from Dale Brooks. It looks like he's going to get to the inside of Michael Hayes for 6th, just about. Not able to actually make the pass, so he's going to have to fall back in line. Might dive into the corner just a little bit. But I mean, regardless, that's a huge comeback from Dale Brooks. I mean, he was laps down at one point. Now he's running P7.
No, yeah, for sure. And great recovery as well from Weimer. We talked about him. He's, had 3 spins. Dale Brooks, heavy damage. I mean, Dirty South has had a dirty race, I'd say. They really have not just they missed the mark, I'd say, on the setup. But I'll tell you what, I think that Brooks and Weimer, I know Brooks himself is very good at adjusting on race cars and building setups. And I just don't think he's been able to spend the time on building the race car. But I think this whole race, because of these cautions, he's had opportunities to work on the car. And I think it's working for him right now. I think that he's starting to really to get it kind of a little bit more nailed down. And, he's gotten a lot of opportunity. Ooh, a little bit loose in the middle of the corner there. Because I think he was trying to avoid Michael Hayes' rear bumper. Also see Stephen Hayes, I do believe, battling behind him. I think that's actually maybe some lap traffic. We see EJ Luna actually being put a lap down again. It's Justin LeBlanc as well, a lap down. Joshua Slade could possibly go a lap down.
We are looking at Stephen Knight here. It looks like he might be able to challenge Steve Gerber for this podium position. We might get to talk to Stephen Knight after he just absolutely mosed through the field after that restart. I mean, what a job he's done to save his tires to be as fast as he is at this point of the race. It does look like he's plateaued a little bit to the leaders as he's kind of caught up to Steve Gerber's back bumper, so it's going to be a little bit harder for him to kind of make up time. But, I mean, regardless, if he can get onto the podium, that's a big shout. He started 16th in this race. He did not lay down a qualifying lap, started in the back, and has worked his way all the way up just about to a podium position.
Oh, it's been a fantastic day for Stephen Knight. I mean, I got to say, I'm rooting for At the Top right now. I want him to get this 1, 2, 3. I mean, that would be so cool for those drivers, such an accomplishment. And it would do so much, I'd say, for the confidence for those guys. I mean, like I said, this whole season has not been an At the Top Motorsports kind of highlight season. I mean, they have not really performed as well as I think they would have liked. I know Chad McGinley early in the season has definitely had some moments of glory. I know he won a couple races himself, but I just think that they've been itching to get back to victory lane, and I think that they have a solid chance to do it here. I think that Bobby Mantle or Chad McGinley, one of these two are going to win this race. I think Bobby's pretty much a clear favorite if a caution doesn't come in. I think that Bobby right now, even though he's racing this race car, he's down on his knees right now praying, please do not let a caution come out. He's got 2.6 seconds. And there it goes. It looks like Stephen Knight is going to jump up into third, and that is going to be an At the Top Motorsports 1, 2, 3 right now.
I'm kind of surprised. I heard you say you wanted Stephen Knight to pass Steve Gerber, but Steve Gerber's got some Team Watson stickers on the side of his truck. So I think we're going to need to talk to some of the ownership in Team Watson about Mr. Brian Britt over here wanting his drivers to not finish on the podium.
Hey, I'm a broadcaster. I am unbiased. I try to be at least. But I mean, hey, man, I want a good headline. I want a good storyline, right? I mean, you want the caption up top says At the Top 1, 2, 3. That's what I want to see,
I mean, it's a great story for those guys. I mean, like you had mentioned, they just haven't ran. When the caution comes out, that throws a wrench in everything. Oh man, I don't know where the caution's at, but that's huge.
Brooks. Oh,
it's Dale Brooks again. No.
Dale Brooks spins it around and looks like he's got some more damage as he was battling. Yep, there with Michael Hayes. Oh, and he just got pretty much double teamed by the Hayes brothers. That was like a wrestling WWE move right there. We might need to watch that one more time as he just got the double tap there from Michael Hayes and Stephen Hayes. You see Michael gets a little tight. Dale's, I think, getting loose on the top at the same time. So I don't think this initial contact was on purpose.
So I'm gonna say this: the first contact's on Michael Hayes. He crowded him too much. The second contact here, Dale Brooks turns across in the braking zone to block Steven. So I have to put I have to put the actual wreck there on Dale. I don't blame him. Like, he just got hit by the other Hayes brother to give Stephen Hayes the opportunity to pass him. So I don't necessarily blame Dale Brooks for trying to keep that position because he got screwed over coming out of turn number 4. But it's just tough. He was in the preferred groove. I would rather him hold the outside and not come across in the braking zone like that. I don't know. That's hard for me to judge just because, like I said, it's one Hayes brother hitting him, and it's definitely the other Hayes brother fault. So, I don't know. If I'm Dale Brooks, I would definitely be pissed off about what happened out of turn 4, but I think he could have done a little bit. I don't know. He could have reacted a little bit different going into turn 1.
Yeah, no, I mean, because considering he was already off the pace, but he might not even have known Stephen Hayes was coming. But I mean, it's just all about race awareness, and it just definitely was a bad deal, and it looks bad for sure for all parties involved. But I mean, that's hey, that's some short track racing. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, no kidding.
They might be mad in their rigs right now. But the people that are watching at home right now are getting a heck of a show. I'll tell you that. I love it.
Yeah, and we're going to have about 12 laps on the restart, so it's about to get even crazier.
100%. Bobby Mantle, I was talking about him being down on his knees praying that no caution comes out. Unfortunately, a caution does come out. Of course, at the top still holds the top 3 positions. Steve Gerber, though, can he possibly play the spoiler? Can Jeff Weimer make something happen? Stephen Hayes, he's now back up to 6th place. So we have pretty much reshuffled the deck. Let's see what we got here. Can Bobby Mantle hold on to this spot? Can he win his first race in Global Racing Truck Series competition? He came so close at Mid-Ohio. Can he do it at Lucas Oil Raceway? What a track to do it at.
Such a gap, too. That stinks. I mean, he had the race won if that doesn't happen. I mean, it's got to be a little bit of heartbreak, but, he's just got to focus forward and know, hey, I've just got to nail this restart. But the scary part is the second place driver can have a really good restart and get to your right rear and just have the preferred line going into the first corner. So if I'm Bobby Mantle, I've got to be a little worried about that. Maybe they've been giving countdowns so that Chad could have a better restart. I think at this point the countdowns are done. You can't give a countdown at this point. There is absolutely no way.
There's no teams right now. This is going to be every man for themselves. Even though I'm sure he's happy that he's got some blue spoilers near him. But I mean, I guarantee you that Chad wants to win this race just as bad as Bobby does.
Yeah, but Bobby's just got to clear him as early as he can. If he can get clear going into turn 1, I don't think the race is over, but it's a hell of a lot nicer for Bobby Mantle if it happens.
And there it is, green flag back out. Bobby with a really good restart clears Chad McGinley by a country mile. Side by side, Stephen Knight trying to see if he can't possibly take over second place from Chad McGinley. Side by side as they exit onto the backstretch, and it looks like Stephen Knight might get it done, and he's up to second.
I mean, we saw that he was stupid quick coming through the field on that last run. Oh, Steve Gerber tightens up onto Chad McGinley coming up the corner, just about contact, but Chad's got to stop the bleeding here. He's got to stay on to Steve Gerber's outside here coming out of turn number 2. Looks like he's going to do it, but this is what
problems. Jeff Weimer. So
no
caution there is Jeff Weimer really squirrely. He's still sideways. There he is. Sideways in front of Dale Brooks. Brooks into the outside wall. Camford into the back end.
How do we not have caution yet?
There's no cars coming right now.
There's no caution.
And I think we're going to stay green.
Well, this is what Bobby Mantle needs to see. He saw them racing hard in his mirror. He's able to build up a second gap as long as the caution doesn't come out. I think this is Bobby Mantle's race to win. I mean, he had an absolutely hell of a restart. Like I said, they started battling behind him, so it's just allowed him to stretch out a gap. But it looks like Steve Gerber is trying to get to the outside of Chad McGinley for third place.
Oh, there goes Chad McGinley into the outside wall. And now the caution flag is going to come out as Steve Gerber and Chad McGinley have some contact, and that is going to change the, at the time, 1, 2, 3 that they were hoping for. As we're going to definitely have to take a look back and see that. I think we're going to take a look back at the first incident as well. As you can see, I do believe Dale Brooks. You see Jeff Weimer gets loose in front. And I think Brooks was trying to avoid Weimer, and unfortunately, I think a driver behind him got into him at the same time. And now we're going to take a look at the Steve Gerber-Chad McGinley accident here, the secondary crash. And, of course, Steve Gerber and Chad McGinley. Let's see. I do believe we could. I wish we could get a different viewpoint on that. Maybe a little bit more of a top-down.
It looks like Chad's coming up, and Steve comes off the wall just ever so slightly too.
Yeah.
So I hate to put that completely on either driver, but I mean, I hate that for Chad McGinley because he's been running second the entire freaking race, and now he gets dropped down to 10th.
He definitely, it's a heartbreaker there for Chad McGinley. That, and taking a look through the chopper camera, this should be a little bit. I would more put that on Gerber. I think Gerber got loose off the corner and was trying to avoid the wall, and came down into the 28. And unfortunately, the 28 paid the price, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I know Gerber is a clean driver. I know he probably I know he didn't mean to do that, but I definitely would say that the 8 definitely came down into the 28 there, and it's just a heartbreaker, like you said, because I mean McGinley ran second and pretty much the entire race. He even led the a good bit of the first parts of this race. That's a heartbreaker.
Yeah, and if the difference is, right, like if that's on like lap 50, I think Chad McGinley leaves more room in that corner, or that wreck doesn't happen. But that still doesn't put the fault on Chad McGinley, because I do believe Gerber came off the wall ever so slightly, but he just didn't have much room up there. It was just about a car width and maybe a fifth of another one, right? So like he had barely any room, but that's Chad's right to squeeze him up there, and as long as he leaves him the space, and he did. But I know if it's like lap 50, Chad probably leaves him another half lane and that wreck doesn't happen. So it's just kind of one of the unfortunate things about coming down to the end of one of these races. You start giving less room, and if you do give less room, there's possibility somebody else is going to make a mistake and take you out. And I do think that's what we saw there.
No, I definitely agree. No, I think that's exactly what we saw there. Just guys, the give and take has ran out. I mean, this is short track racing. A lot of these guys were already somewhat in a more of a frustrated mood here. Of course, pace car lights should be going out here very soon. I know Bobby Mantle is probably like, please, can this race just be over and I win this thing? Because, I mean, this, he's dominated this thing. And, something like that could easily happen to him. So I know that he's probably sitting there, just hoping and praying that something doesn't go wrong here. But here we go. Pace car lights are out.
Yeah. We're going to have a natural green-white checkered.
That's right. Could we have a an official green-white checker? We'll have to wait and see if that's going to be the case. A lot of these drivers are going to be driving it in deep. I think this is going to be quite a challenge to make the white flag here.
All of a sudden, we've got 2 of the Lone Star trucks back in the top 5 again out of nowhere. Somehow, both of the Hayes brothers start falling backwards, and then with 2 laps to go, we got them both in the top 5. So I don't know exactly how that happens, but yeah, like you said, we're coming to the green flag.
Pace car has dipped down pit road. We're getting ready to enter the Geico restart zone. And there it is. Green flag is back out. Mantle wasting no time to get up through the gears. As we're going to be 2 laps to go. Side by side, Steve Gerber sends it in on the 79. Gerber is a man on a mission right now, as he has rocked his way up to second place. Does Stephen Knight try to cross him over? He's not able to get there. Gerber driving it in hard right now on the outside. You see Stephen Knight on the inside. Still side by side for second. That position has not been secured, but the white flag has come out, and it looks like this is the final lap. Bobby Mantle, I think, is going to he's in the position to do it if he just
DJ Honeycutt spinning in the back of the pack. He gets T-boned hard. It's so far back, and it's on the white flag, so it doesn't matter too much, but Stephen Knight's going to be able to come through second. Steve Gerber third. Bobby Mantle with the big victory after he dominates at IRP.
Bobby Mantle, his first Global Racing Truck Series win. What a job to him. Steve Gerber crossed the line sideways. He was almost spinning out going across the start-finish line. As you see, a little bit of congratulations bump there from Stephen Knight to the rear end of the 89. What a victory. I mean, Mantle clearly earned this. He clearly was the fastest race car out there on the racetrack. I mean, we said it all race. I mean, even though he had the pole position, he was fastest in qualifying, had an EOL, sent him all the way to the back, and he came out here and just dominated. I mean, there's no other word for it, Austin.
That's an unbelievably impressive performance from Bobby Mantle. I apologize for taking that call from you. I just saw DJ Honeycutt getting T-boned on the backstretch. Oh my God! Jeff Weimer comes in and absolutely destroys Bobby Mantle after the race. If I was a fan here, I would love to have that front bumper. But, his truck may not look good anymore, but hey, that's still a great performance from At the Top Motorsports. I mean, they probably should have had a 1-2-3, end up with the 1-2, and, Chad McGinley still recovered to 8th whenever he fell back to 10th or 11th. So, he had a good restart at the end too, but still unfortunate for him. But Bobby Mantle, what an amazing performance.
100%. Of course, that wraps up our Martin Sports winning moment. Of course, Martin Sports, a family-owned apparel company in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They've been open for a decade and proved to be the best provider of custom apparel for everyone. Whether you're looking for apparel for your local sports team, business, special events, much more, maybe even family reunion. Not only that, Martin Sports is a major brand involved in sim racing. They actually make sim racing gloves, which are fantastic. I have a set myself, and I would not race without them. They are breathable. They provide grip. That's the most important thing, of course. And of course, they also make they can make sim racing apparel for you. It's like if you want to have your team, decked out in your own custom gear, they're the people to go to. Visit martinsports906.com today to get into contact with them. Definitely appreciate them being a sponsor here of the Global Racing Truck Series. With that, we're going to go ahead and do a quick rundown through the final results of today's race. And, of course, Bobby Mantle brings home the dub, his first win in Global Racing Truck Series competition. I can't wait to talk to him. Second place, Stephen Knight. I think this might be Stephen Knight's best finish. But third place, Steve Gerber. Fourth place, Stephen Hayes. Fifth place, Michael Hayes. Sixth place, Don Blazier. Seventh, Justin LeBlanc. Eighth, heartbreaking, Chad McGinley. Ninth place, Joshua Slade. 10th, EJ Luna.
11th place is going to be Jeffrey Weimer. 12th, DJ Honeycutt. We saw him get T-boned on the last lap. 13th, Dale Brooks. 14th, Josh Camphor. 15th, Matthew Escalara. And 16th, Ricky Hudges.
Alrighty, and I do believe we're going to go ahead and right on into our interview portion of tonight's event. I'm looking for our third place finisher. Do not see him for some reason, so we'll go ahead and start off with our second place finisher. And Austin Edstrom's going to be standing by with Stephen Knight.
Hey, Stephen, do we got you?
You do.
Man, great run through the back or from the back of the pack. You started 16th, didn't even put down a qualifying lap, and towards the end of the race, we just all of a sudden saw you crawl up into fourth, and then the caution came out, and you had a couple good restarts. Can you kind of walk us through the ending of that race and just kind of how you were able to pick through the field?
Sure thing. Fun race. First off, my buddies Bobby and Chad helped me so much. They're the ones that got me to go quick. So about halfway through the race, I realized I had a really good long run truck. So that's what we needed to give me a chance to come through the field. And that's what happened. I slowly just started picking them off, made it up to the front. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like you were maybe the fastest truck on the track for a little while until you got to the back of Steve Gerber, I believe, on that long run, and you were trying to pass him. But before then, like I said, you were literally the fastest truck on the track. I think this is, to my knowledge, your best finish of the series so far. So, what does that mean to you being able to come in P2 here tonight?
Oh, it's huge. This is a competitive field, and I'm just happy to be up here. I had a horrible race last week, so this is way better. Means a lot. I hope I can build on this and maybe even sneak in the playoffs.
Heck yeah. I mean, if At the Top continues to bring good pieces like that, I mean, I feel like y'all have been just a little off the pace recently, but here you had literally the three fastest trucks of the night. So I hope that y'all can continue that momentum because it was fun to see some different names up at the front. Do you have any other shout outs that you can give us for tonight?
Sure. Our team captain, Kenny, of course, Michael Lester and Kenny for running this league, and my teammates. I can't say enough about Chad and Bobby. I'm so lucky to be on a team with those guys.
Heck yeah, well, congratulations on the P2 finish. Great podium at a completely different style of racetrack than we normally go to, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Stephen Knight. We're going to jump over. We've actually got our third place finisher here now, so Brian Britt, would you like to take the third place finisher, Steve?
I shall. Steve Gerber, we were wondering where you were. We were trying to find you.
Yeah,
but,
sorry about that.
That's all right. Congratulations on the third place finish. It looks like you finished third sideways. Walk us through your race. It seemed like it was kind of an up and down day for you. Very, very difficult track.
Yeah, I just couldn't quite get it figured out, honestly. I just couldn't get the corners right. I don't know. It's just one of those days where you just want to kind of get through it. But I tried to do the best I could with what I had. And guess I kind of got lucky getting a third, honestly. But
well, you definitely had speed. I mean, you seemed like you made a call. I know making as well as a pit decision to kind of take tires when a lot of the other drivers didn't, and that gave you some track position. And so, I mean, I wouldn't be too down on yourself. You definitely seemed like you had some speed out there on the racetrack, but this is a very difficult track. How much did you prepare, for this track? Because I know it probably took a lot of preparation.
I mean, practice all week, but probably not as much this late in the season. You can start losing your steam a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I practice. I mean, I probably not as much as I should have with this track, but it is what it is. I'll take it third. I kind of hate getting into Chad there. I didn't really mean it. I think I probably just came off the wall a little as he was trying to come up. He probably might mixture of he thinking he was maybe going to clear me, and then I don't know. Hard racing. I'm sure he's mad at me still, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, we kind of saw it from that same that's pretty much exactly what happened. You kind of got a little bit off, trying to avoid hitting the wall, came down into him a little bit there. Just hard racing late in the race. I mean, that's kind of the way it was there. And, I'm sure bygones will be bygones. I'm sure you guys will talk that out for sure. But great job to you, Steve. Who can we give a shout out to after your third place finish?
Shout out to my wife, of course, for putting up with this, and my buddy Mike, who helps me with my paints, and TWRS for the setup. So appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Steve. We'll see you next week at Watkins Glen, brother.
All right, have a good one.
All righty, that was Steve Gerber, our third place finisher. Next up, first win, I do believe, in Global Racing Series competition. Came close at Mid-Ohio, not able to do it. But at IRP, Bobby Mantle gets it done, man. You got to be just on cloud nine right now.
Oh, I'm loving it. Pulled it off today, first win. That's huge for me.
It's got to be. I mean, and you came close at Mid-Ohio. You had really good speed there. And it seems like you're always good at these really, really difficult tracks. Like, what is with that?
Well, really, it depends if I put the practice in. Like Richmond, I didn't put the practice in, and it showed. I struggled there, but this week I put in the hours. Yesterday I practiced with the team. We put a solid 4 or 5 hours in. We all bettered each other, and it showed today.
It definitely did. I mean, it was a very so you think it was really more of a team effort with at the top this week? You think?
Exactly. Yeah, the guys, they helped me pick up my pace. I helped them out. We just put in the hours. We had tons of laps on the track, and we were ready to come out and put on a show.
Now, why do you think that it was different this week? Do you think it maybe was like, hey, we haven't been performing to the standard we want, so we really need to put the time in? Or is that what maybe kind of motivated you guys to kind of just, get back to the drawing board somewhat?
Nah, more kind of just life, man. Like previous weeks, I just didn't have the time to dedicate to the sim. And this week, I was able to set aside some hours, put the time in, and just do my best.
And we definitely can see the results of that. I mean, you guys put on quite a show. You were really, really fast out there, Bobby. You definitely seemed like you had the best race car. You definitely seemed like you knew what you were doing. What were some of the tricky parts, though? I mean, I know you probably were sweating a little bit when those cautions came out late.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy with the cautions, but the hardest part of the race was definitely the beginning. I knew I had a fast truck. Obviously, I qualified on pole, but I had to deal with that EOL, so I was just patient. I knew I had a good long-run truck, and just had to wait for those chances to strike. And sure enough, they just kind of fell into my lap.
That they did. Well, awesome job, man. How you feeling? I know you're a pretty good road course racer. Watkins Glen's coming up next week. How you feel about that?
I'm feeling pretty good. I've put a little bit of practice into there. But I love the road racing with these trucks, so I'm sure I'll be a contender there next week as well.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing what you can do there, Bobby. Great job on the win. I even said it during the broadcast. I was rooting for you, and that's saying something. I was like, man,
appreciate it, Brian.
Bobby can get this thing. Man, that would be awesome to see.
I'm expecting a Chris Buescher-esque no wins all year and then 2 back-to-back with us going to Watkins Glen next week from you.
All right, well, I'll see what I can do.
All right, who can we give a shout-out to, Bobby?
Shout out to the guys this week at the top. Shout out to you guys behind the broadcast. Love what you guys do every week behind the camera. Shout out to all my friends, family that tune in to watch this. And just everyone have a good Sunday.
All right, Bobby, you have a good Sunday as well. I'm sure your Sunday just got a heck of a lot better. We'll see you later,
yes,
brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All righty, that was Bobby Mantle, our winner here tonight in the Global Racing Truck Series. What a fantastic performance for him. I mean, he had to be just so scared at the end. I mean, I just know that if I was in the lead at a track like this, I mean, it's so easy to bungle a win at a track like this. It requires so much skill, but he was able to do it. So congratulations to Bobby. Of course, congratulations to Stephen Knight. I mean, one of the best finishes, I think, if not the best finish he has had this season. I mean, just at the top really has, I'd say, sent a message. Austin, any final thoughts?
I mean, just like you said, I mean, who knows? Maybe for the rest of the year, we could see At the Top really challenge the other two. I mean, it's not like they really had a challenge from anybody today. They were the far and away favorites out of any of the 5 aces or Lone Star group. I mean, they just came in here and dominated the race, and that's something we just haven't seen from them recently. So, I mean, I don't know if they can continue this momentum. We could really see a couple of them make a push for maybe the championship towards the end, because I think that they have like pretty good spots in the standings. It's not like they're too far off, even though they haven't necessarily had the speed. So if they can come and get a couple more 1-2s, we could see one of them winning the championship at the end of the year.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely 100% agree. And you know, who's to know? I mean, we've seen such parity between the different teams. We've seen, you know, all these teams come out here and it be their week. When is Dirty South week going to come up? I think that's going to be another thing that's going to end up happening. I think, you know, some of the other teams as well, you know, like the Lazy Lizard. I mean, there's a lot of other teams that still could answer that call that a lot of these other, you know, I expect that a lot of these drivers, they're pushing each other. So I do expect that we're going to see a lot more drivers trying to make that, you know, send that message that, hey, I'm tired of not being in the spotlight. And I think we'll see that for sure. But we definitely appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight. Let's take a look at the schedule for this coming week while we have a moment. And, of course, definitely a lot of action scheduled this coming up week. Of course, starting on Tuesday in the Champion Power Equipment Truck Series, we're going to be at Big Bad Talladega, the biggest super speedway on the NASCAR schedule. Of course, they're going to be in the truck, a very familiar thing we've seen here today. Of course, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is going to be an awesome one. I can't wait to see. Of course, they are getting very close, I do believe, to the end of their championship. Of course, Wednesday, Atlanta Motor Speedway, another super speedway style race track. Thunderclap, man, those guys have been doing fantastic. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Those races are so exciting. Never know who's going to week out. You know, of course, we have Ryan Truex, Tyler Truex, all kinds of awesome just guys that are involved in the real life NASCAR, you know, stuff. So it's so cool to see those guys out there in competition in the virtual world. Of course, Friday, me and Austin's going to be back in action, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, I missed this past NIS, but I will try my best to be there for Watkins Glen for sure.
Yes.
And, of course, on Sunday, we're going to be back at Watkins